No.
You guys ready? Okay.
Where's the doctor?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
Not sure the mic is working.
Good evening, everyone. Whoa. I'd like to welcome everyone to the school committee meeting for Wednesday, November 6th. And just start off by saying how happy it makes me to see all of the faces out in the audience today. And I can just feel the brain power in the room right now. So again, thank you all for being here, and we'll get to the agenda items shortly. I'd like to start off with public participation. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the committee? If so, come on up to the microphone. Welcome, Mr. Welcome.
Good evening, thank you. My name is Brian Fitzgerald. I'm a fifth grade English Social Studies intervention teacher, president of the Wareham Education Association. And to begin, let me just echo Chairperson Vugan's sentiments. It's great to see so many students here, so many families, and I would add personally some that I had the pleasure of teaching, and at least one that I will be able to see tomorrow morning first thing in homeroom. It's great to see such achievement in this room, and we're so glad you came and joined us tonight. I promise everybody I will be very brief. Here to follow on a conversation that was held at the last school committee meeting concerning transference of personnel within Deacon's Elementary School. And by the committee's leave, what I would like to do is give you a piece of paper that illustrates exactly how those who taught third and fifth grade, including me, came to be in those positions last year, and then provide a summary of, I guarantee, 30 seconds or less, and take any questions if that would be in the committee's acceptance.
Okay. Thanks, Brian.
I said 30 seconds, didn't I? All right. The central point, I think, is that there was an incredible amount of movement between grades 3 and 5 at Deacon's Elementary. As you can see, a combined 7 openings. And 2 points that I just wanted to state is it is a particular challenge to teach a certain curriculum for the first time. I compare it to leading an orchestra for the first time. Maybe you've read the sheet music, you've heard the musicians, but you don't really know how it sounds until you pick up the baton. And the second time is better, and the third time better still. So I do agree that that was a challenge. But one thing that I do feel compelled to emphasize in the wake of some of the statements at the last school committee meeting, these openings and these transfers were decisions taken within the building. And I believe that that is something that is an important piece of context that should be entered into the record, that the transfers and movement at Deacon's were building-based decisions. And respectfully, as president of the association, I failed to see what impact the association or the contract had on almost all of those movements. And I will leave it there if there are any questions. I know we have many guests. I don't want to take their time. I will answer any questions or just move on from here.
Thank you so much for your presence tonight. I'm not going to take questions regarding this evening, but I encourage any one of the school committee members to please follow up with the superintendent and or Mr. Fitzgerald if they have any questions regarding the statements tonight. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Okay, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thanks. Is there anyone else that would like to address the committee this evening? Seeing none, I will move on to good news.
I have some good news.
Okay.
Okay, and I'd like to direct your attention to the slide for a brief video. some things that have happened in our district within the last several weeks. Each meeting, we're going to be providing you with a video highlighting some of the wonderful events. I also have additional news. Today we received information from the NIAC Kindergarten Accreditation. DECUS was awarded their accreditation, and that is wonderful news. As well, how do I say your name? Giafrida. Mrs. Giafrida, who's a science teacher at the middle school, 7th grade, has been asked to present to the Society of Integrated and Comparable Biology Conference. She's going to present an abstract on the functional significance surrounding the anterior lateral superficial neuromask of the toadfish. We will be asking her to come and share briefly, in layman's terms, exactly what that means. She will be presenting in Texas, in Austin, Texas, in January. So we congratulate her, and we look forward to learning more about the toadfish. The Wareham High School has announced the inductees of the Athletic Hall of Fame for 2013. The names will be released. The Hall of Fame induction ceremony will take place on Saturday, November 30th at 6 o'clock. Please contact the high school should you like additional information. We also have the high school athletes and their parents are asked to attend the Meet the Winter Season Coaches Night on Thursday, November 21st at 5:15. It will be held in the high school auditorium. And that completes my good news.
Thank you so much. Other members would like to share good news? Yes.
At the last meeting, we had a presentation concerning the art show that was going to take place, I guess it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday of last week. And I, along with, I'm sure, many people, including some people in the audience, went to see it. And I wanted to compliment all the art teachers and particularly the artists that made it such an interesting place to go to. I personally found out that not only are my tennis players smart, they're also artistic. So it was a particular pleasure to see that.
Thank you. Yes?
I attended and worked at the Bog Fright Night that we had recently, and that was a great thing. That Makepeace never ceases to impress me with the gratitude, with the community involvement that they have here in this town. From what I could tell, it was a great success. People were very happy with it. I helped park cars, so when they came back, I asked if they enjoyed it, and they really did. Actually, saw Mr. Palladino there too. Make sure nobody tampered with his car while he was at the event. So I was glad to see everybody there, and it was the kids did a great job.
Great. Thank you. I just had a couple announcements. One, if we have any Minot students and parents and anybody else in the community that would like to come and help out, the Make Minot Magical will be happening this Saturday at Minot. Volunteers are needed to rake, paint, and plant from 9 a.m. on. So if anyone has some time this Saturday, please come out and join us. Also, the Foundation for Wareham Education is hosting their annual fall fundraiser. It's called Toast the Teachers, and it is Tuesday, November 19th from 6 to 9 at Ella's on Cranberry Highway. This is a great event where the Wareham Educational Foundation gives out the grants to the teachers that applied, and they're able to do different things in their classroom. Tickets are $35, teachers only $25, and if you would like to purchase tickets, please go to foundationforwarehameducation.org for tickets, and we hope to see you all out there. Lastly, there was a story in Wareham Week about a committee member of ours that is starting a scholarship fund. And I just think it's appropriate because I think it's a wonderful thing. Jeff, if you wouldn't mind just talking a little bit about the foundation or the scholarship program that you're going to be starting and how kids might be able to find out more information about it.
Oh, wow, I wasn't expecting that. I was hoping the Wareham Week story would come out first. There is a wonderful... Oh, I've been looking for it and I missed it.
It was in Wareham Week today. That's the only reason why.
Today? Oh, well,
Yes.
I didn't get to it today. Thank
He
you,
was
Wareham Week.
busy.
There is a wonderful program called Advanced Leadership Studies that is administered by the Cape Cod Collaborative and run over at the Mass Maritime Academy. As the school committee's representative to the Cape Cod Collaborative, I became aware of the fact that although there is an allotment to every town based upon their size, that Wareham is not using all of its allotments. And I decided there was probably one fundamental reason, and that is it's really expensive to go to this 3-week course at the Maritime Academy, and even to apply for it costs $60. So in cooperation with the collaborative, Dr. Joe Gilbert, who runs the program, we eliminated, and this is important for all of you who are thinking about applying, we eliminated the application fee if you're on the free and reduced lunch program, and I'm starting a scholarship program so that people who can't afford next year it will be $1,240 for 3 weeks. If you can't afford it, we want you to go anyway and be supported by the town of Wareham. So I urge everybody who is interested in this program, by the way, it's particularly oriented towards what's called STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. So if you're a student or you're a parent of students in the middle school, this is for 8th and 9th graders, the summer after the 8th and 9th grade. If you're a parent or with students who have interest in science, technology, engineering, and math, and you want to go to this wonderful program, I do not want money to be an impediment for you to be able to go, or for your child to be able to go. So please read the article in Wareham Week. I greatly appreciate Wareham Week putting it in, and I hope to see the full allotment, if not more, of Wareham students participating. And thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
It's been a while since we've met. I think since we've met last as a full board, that we had the readers become leaders, the 5K, and I didn't participate in that, but I know people who did, and I was wondering if anyone was here that participated could speak to it and what a good success it was. Sure.
I did not participate, but I was able to start the race. And so that was my excuse. But no, it was, there was a lot of excitement, there was fun, and everybody had a wonderful time. And we had some pretty serious runners. So it was a well-run event that was very successful.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to the minutes of the meeting of October 10th. I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain?
Abstain.
Okay. 401. You were there. Now on to the minutes of the meeting of October 16th. I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain?
Abstain.
401. Thank you very much. Now to the best part of the agenda tonight. I'd like to turn it over to the superintendent for the student recognition for MCAS and also for the Adams Scholarship.
Thank you. These kind of events at school committee are so exciting because you really are what makes our school district. So thank you for coming. We're very happy to recognize you. And at this time, I would like the principals from Minot, Mrs. Seaman, Dr. Marks from the middle school, and Mr. Palladino to come forward. And they will then introduce their students. So, Mrs. Seaman.
Good
Good evening, everyone. I have two students at Minot Forest that I'm very proud of that I would like to recognize. Anthony Calderon, if you could stand up, please. He's here in the front row. And face everybody and give a nice big wave, Anthony, for having a perfect MCAS score. And Anthony is currently in grade 4, so he had a perfect MCAS score in his 3rd grade MCAS last year. And also for Helena Witten. Helena, stand up, face everybody, wave. And Helena is in grade 4 as well, so she had a perfect score in her 3rd grade MCAS. And it just so happens, by luck of the draw, they're in the same classroom this year. So congratulations to both of you. I'm very proud of you.
Good evening. I'm honored to be here to give you the great news about our outstanding students from the middle school. Miss Jordan Vermilia, are you here? If you are, please stand up. If not, we give you a round of applause. Thank you. She's a grade 7 student. Also from grade 7, Miss Michaela Bumpus. Please stand up. Thank you, Michaela. Grade 5 student, Mr. Joshua Alpert. Congratulations, Joshua. We're so proud of you. Grade 5 also, Mr. Michael Gibbs. Mr. Michael Gibbs. Thank you, Michael. Nice job. We're so proud of you. Miss Cecilia Botino. Nice job. Thank you so much. And Miss Samantha Scully, a 5th grade student. Thank you. Good job.
We're going to have a few, so I'm going to ask the students to come on out and stand on the stage so we can get a picture. These are 12th grade Abigail Adams scholars, and some did have some perfect MCAS scores in the 10th grade. So we're going to call up the Abigail Adams scholars. Kyle Gomes, Owen Gerner, Sean Irving, Nathaniel King, John Maha, Timothy Riley, Zach Sass, Mason Vasconcelos, Jeremy Wilder, Emma Wynn, Hope Wallace, Samantha Toll. You're going to be clapping for a while, so keep it going. Ashley Texera, Madison Stama, Shayna Santiago, Mia Sansis, Kelly Peterson, Nicole Nault, Brenna Muir, Sydney Johnson, Anastasia Isom, Hannah Haywood, Maria Gutierrez, Sarah Gillette, Lacey Flaherty, Charlamea Erasmi, Emily Cummings, almost there, Isabel Correa, Peyton Burke, Christina Ball, Jaden Bethany Rose, Sydney Andrade, Tyler Augustin, Emily Vacchiocchi, Cameron Bancroft, Owen Braley, Tyrone Cabral, Dustin Catabriga Hillia, Devin Cleveland, Jacob Cobb, Mackenzie Mac Cornell, and Joshua Dix. These are your Abigail Adams scholars from the class of 2014. We want to thank them. We're very proud of them. This is one of the largest groups we've had for Abigail Adams scholars. And this is Wareham High School right here. I'm very proud of all these folks here. Great kids, more importantly, great citizens. And I know Jamie wants to get a picture. You want to squeeze them in? Please. They're used to this. Let's squeeze in and get a good picture.
Jamie, can we do one picture with them, and then if I could get all of the kids that were honored tonight up on stage to get one
We still have a few more to honor.
Okay.
Okay? I figured the DECA folks would have this down pat. Sylvia, what's going on? Okay.
I just hired one of these girls. Which one? No, not her. For the Boys and Girls Club. To help her.
We're going to have you stay up there because I wanted to give the people a chance to stop clapping for a minute. But we have some great kids as well that had perfect MCAS scores in the high school, and I want to call them up as well and get them in the picture. They'll come right up in the front row.
Hey,
Noah.
Scott, if we could actually do this, have you guys sit, let's finish that up, and then we'll take a break and we'll take all the pictures.
There you go.
Thank you so much.
All right, guys, you can have a seat. Thanks, guys and ladies.
But don't go anywhere, please.
Okay, going back to perfect MCAS scores. Grade 10, Noah Wombolt. Noah. Right up in the middle of the stage. Nicole Russo, school committee rep. All right, Nicole. Brianna Baptista. Brett McSherry. Adriana Adams. Want to congratulate them as well for a great job on the MCAS scores. Some of these students still have another 2 MCAS to take care of. Most of them are done. I want to congratulate all of you and thank you for being here tonight. Just a great representation of Wareham High School. Thanks, guys.
So everyone, we're going to take a 5 to 10 minute break. We'd like, if possible, to have all the students that were recognized tonight to please come up to the stage so we can get some different photos, and then we'll resume our meeting right after that. So again, thank you all for everything. So we'll come back to the school committee meeting. Just a couple things that I wanted that is important to state. The middle schoolers that were in front of you this evening represent both of the elementary schools and had perfect scores throughout. So we just wanted to make sure that that was said, and that those students are commended for the perfect school scores and represented both elementary schools. So thank you again for that. I know that the parents and the students weren't here. It's 7:34. I'm sure that they had homework to get to. That's the reason why I didn't entertain questions. So I apologize for that. But if there are any comments from the committee that you'd like to make, I'm happy to have everyone say them now. Yes.
Given my extraordinary age, people may be surprised that I actually remember my elementary school. And I had a book, and on the inside flap was the expression, "If I have seen further, it is because I have stood on the shoulders of giants." It's amazing the things you remember from 6 decades ago. No, almost 6 decades ago. I'm sorry the parents aren't here, but there's no question in my mind that if these students were successful, it is because of the parents and the teachers, some of whom are in this room. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other?
Just so happy to see that. I'm happy to see that the superintendent put this together. It was you who did this, right? Who set it up anyway. I thank you very much for doing that. We haven't seen anything like this before, and it's really good to put these kids, front and center and let everyone know the good work that's going on. I mean, perfect scores. That's incredible.
Great.
Yeah, I just wanted to ditto what Mr. Flaherty said. I want to congratulate the superintendent in putting this forward, but most importantly, congratulate the parents and the students for their accomplishments, because they're the ones that actually tell the story about what's going on in Wareham Public Schools. So many times we hear about what's not going on or what the problems with Wareham Public Schools are, but I think that we have to look to the positive things that are going on, and where I've been here for so long, probably no longer than anyone in this room, I can honestly say that some wonderful things are going on in Wareham Public Schools, and we have to continue to put our best foot forward and to let folks know that a quality education can be had at Wareham Public Schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
I just want to thank you for the comments, but truly it's all about the students, the parents, the teachers, the administrators. I just facilitated it. They're the ones that made it happen, and we're truly blessed with all the very wonderful things that are happening in Wareham, and it's part of our job to make sure that our community sees the great students.
Next time we'll say all of that when the parents and students are in the room. Thank you, everyone. I'd like to move on to the MCAS results and start off with Principal Palladino, please.
Would it make sense to defer to Joan, since I'm here for 2 presentations, and I
Yes.
could probably get her out of here quicker?
Just
we're
following the
not going
agenda,
anywhere.
but that
Is
makes
that
a lot
okay?
of sense.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Guess what?
So we'll hear the MCAS results from the Minot Forest Elementary School and Principal Siemens. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for coming.
It is great to be here this evening, isn't it, Mr. Sweat?
Okay.
I'm sorry, you
throw
don't
you
know.
in, Mr.
Jeff
Fonz.
almost ran over Principal Siemens before walking into the building this evening.
Oh, we didn't know that.
Yes,
Well, that takes on more meaning.
yes.
That's a new 5K.
I just have a pass from his questions tonight, that's all. All right, good evening, everybody. So I'm here to present the MCAS data from Minot Forest School. So I'd like to start out with some good news, since we're in the MCAS celebration mode. Minot Forest is going to be holding 2 dinner celebrations for the 38 students who scored advanced on their 3rd grade MCAS, and for the 57 students who scored proficient on their 3rd grade MCAS. So due to the capacity in the cafeteria, I have to have 2 different evenings. So these notices went out. So on November 13th and 14th at 5 o'clock, if you're available, you can come for a spaghetti dinner, and then the students will get a certificate of recognition.
You said November 13th and 14th
That's correct.
at 5 p.m.?
5 o'clock, Minot
you.
Forest Cafeteria. So I wanted to start with a little bit of a historical perspective. When we were back under the old system of AYP, Minot Forest had a good track record. We were always a level 1 school. And when we had years that we had to make improvements, as a staff we came together, we made those improvements, and it would show on our MCAS. So you see a lot of the yeses. After the 2011 year, AYP then changed to PPI, the Performance Performance and Progress Index. But it's important to show that we have this history here, and as a staff, as students, as a team, we work together where we need to try to make the improvements that we have to make. So these are the MCAS scores for 2013. You can find these on the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education's website. So there's a couple of things I'm going to focus on for you. So you'll see here, we start with the 2012 CPI, and as you go forth, we want to see if there's been a change in the 2013 CPI. So you see those numbers are on the screen, and the CPI change is right there in a column for you. And you get various points based on the CPI that you get for students. They get points for if they score advanced, proficient, needs improvement, warning, anywhere from 25 points all the way up to 100. And we have a column here that says 2013 target, and that is the target that we're trying to reach. So if you look at the 2013 CPI and the target, you'll see the CPI change is there. And in this particular category, Minot Forest is a level 2 school. We remained a level 2. We were level 2 last year because of the new PPI index. We remain a level 2 school. We did not meet our targets, but as you're going to see in these slides, we have made some great improvements. With the PPI, they have a 6-year goal. We want to try to narrow the gaps so that our students can make that achievement when we get to the year 2017. And the other categories that we have here, percentile in schools, this is comparing schools across the state. The N column is how many students participated. PPI is the number of points that you are awarded. So for instance, if the number of students or the CPI declined slightly, upwards of negative 2.5 points, you could get some points for that. You can see if it says no change, we were awarded 25 points because we didn't go below the negative 2.5. In the last column here for high needs, you see it says improved but below the target. We didn't hit the target, but we made improvements. Same thing with our low-income population. We were below the target, however, we did show improvement, so we received 50 points for that. For students with disability, there was no change there. You'll see that it's statistically, it's not too much there with the negative 0.9 there. I have a glare here, sorry. The multi-race we declined, and last year we had gone way beyond the target, and the number of students had changed, so we did decline in that particular category. And in the category of white, although we were below the target, we did make improvements. ELA, though, although we made some improvements, I felt that there were more things that we could have done. In grades 3 and 4, we did not have the REACH program. and that's the reading program that's aligned to the Common Core standard. So in grades 3 and 4 last year, the teachers were still pulling supplemental material to try to reach those standards. But one thing I think that helped make the improvements that we made was the fact that we had part-time interventionists through the RTI process. So those part-time interventionists, along with half of the instructional leaders, my reading interventionist, Ms. Kuklinski, as well as our Title I paraprofessional, were working with students in ELA, targeting the skills that we needed to improve. We focused on a lot of the assessments from DIBELS, and we saw that we needed to make that change this year. So not focusing so much on DIBELS scores, but focusing on the skills that the students need to improve on from the REACH material. So we've made that change to reflect this year. So we're hoping to see more of an improvement. One other element that has changed with the standards is that the lexicons have improved. So it's almost like jumping a whole grade level. So we have a vocabulary program that was in all of the grade levels, and we actually had to take the 3rd grade vocabulary program and move it down to 2nd grade. And the 2nd grade teachers had to take their materials and move it down to 1st grade. So with the Common Core standards, they really have increased the expectations for students. We are providing professional development to our staff right now this year. Some of them have already had some workshops to try to make this transition with the new lexicons. We did better in math. You'll see when you're looking at the various baselines, the CPI, we did make improvements. So when you look at the column that says CPI change, we're in the plus here. 4 points for all students, 6.3 points for the high need students, 6.5 points for low income. Students with disability, we improved by 2.9 points. Multi-race, although ELA wasn't as great, for math, we improved 6.8 points. And in the category of white, 4 points. And again, you receive points for all of these improvements. So you'll see in the column towards the end, we received 50 points there. Again, we were below the target, but if you look at every one of these categories, it shows improvement. And then we have science. In science, we have science kits for grades 3 through 5. We don't have a structured program catered to for science, but the teachers are pulling materials to try to teach science to the students. At least with the REACH program, and last year it was K-2, the teachers have a lot of informational text, so they are able to teach science and social studies through the informational text, which is the REACH program. And in grades 3 and 4 this year, they just received the REACH program, so they're doing a lot of teaching of the science and social studies standards through that. But we know that there are some gaps. So the teachers have been going through to identify what those gaps are. So for instance, in grade 3, scientific method is one area. So they're pulling other supplemental material to make sure they're hitting those standards. So we know we need to really firm up the science program. However, for all students, high needs and low income, although we were below the target, we did make improvement in those categories. And in the category of white, there was no change. We did dip a little bit, but it's not statistically that much of a difference.
Joan, just before you go on top of the projector, there's a little dial. It's just a little bit blurry.
Yes.
We just want to make sure that the folks at home can see the...
It's actually all the way over.
Is it? Yeah, thank you.
Extra credit. We always, in school, you always like to get extra credit, raise your score a little bit. So we also like extra credit for MCAS. And we get various points if you decrease the percentage of your students in the warning or failing category by 10% or more, they give you extra points for that. If you increase your advanced scores by 10% or more, they give you extra credit for that. So we did receive extra credit points for increasing our advanced population by 10% or more in the category of high needs, low income, and they gave us 25 extra points for that. And we also received extra points for decreasing the warning and failing category by 10% or more. And you'll see in the last column, all but one of the categories we received the extra points for. The only one we did not was the multi-race national Hispanic, non-Hispanic. And again, that was an ELA. So we know that there was an issue that we saw with ELA that we're trying to address this year through the K-4 REACH program. Do I have some concerns this year? Yes, I do. Because of our budget cuts last year, we eliminated 4 of the part-time interventionists. So these are the positions that we need to work with our at-risk students to bring them up. And that's something as a school we're trying to struggle with and still try to get the help for the students that need it. We are still offering intervention services, it's just at a decreased amount of people that we've had from before. In mathematics, we also received extra credit. So you can see in all the various categories that have been mentioned for PPI points, we received 25 extra points for increasing our advanced scores 10% or more. And in all but one category, we received extra credit points for decreasing our warning or failing population by 10% or more. So we are very proud of that. And in science, although we didn't receive any extra credit points for the advanced part, we did receive extra credit points for decreasing our warning or failing category. So in 2 of those, the high needs and the low income, we received 25 extra credit points. Student growth percentile. So we are able to see our scores from the year before, from 2012, and we compare it to 2013 to see if the students have made any growth. So when you're looking at the ELA, we did not make the student growth percentile in the high needs, the all students, and the low income, and also down below at the white category. You're awarded points if you can show student growth percentile. So you get 100 points if your student growth percentile is 60 points or more. You can receive 75 points, for instance, if the range is from 51 to 59. You receive 50 points if your median student growth percentile is from 41 to 50 points, or the score. 25 PPI points are awarded for 31 to 40, and you would not get any points if you declined or your median student growth percentile was anywhere from 1 to 30. And when you're looking at safe harbor, we did not meet the safe harbor for ELA. And safe harbor is the percentage that are not proficient if you decrease 10% or more from the previous year. So if we can decrease that population by 10% or more, then we would get extra points, and that would be called safe harbor. But we did not do that for ELA. For the 6-year goal, we try to achieve or maintain the student growth percentile at least 1 point above the state. And right now the state is at 51. For math, you'll see our rating is on target. When you're looking at the student growth percentile, we did receive points because when you're looking at all students and the student growth percentile was 13 points, we were able to get safe harbor points for that, and also PPI points. So we were on target for our math. So as I said earlier, our math scores were better. And in this slide, this is MCAS participation. That means have all the students participated in the MCAS that are required to, and that's everybody, even if it's MCAS alt. And we do a really good job of making sure everybody takes the test. We send out the calendar at the beginning of the school year. We try to encourage families not to take vacations during MCAS time. We are making up those tests right before the UPS truck arrives. So for Minot Forest, we did meet the 95% that we're required to have, and we've been doing that every year. So we thank the families that do have the children there. When the children are sick, we have makeup days, and we get that taken care of. So when we look at our data from the MCAS, we looked to see, are there any changes that we need to make in our school improvement plan? And not knowing what the scores were when we came up with the goals last year, there's only a few changes that we were going to make. So first I'll give you a narrative, and then I'll switch to the slide of actually where we added some changes in. So for ELA, this year we have the new materials. So the REACH program, the REACH from National Geographic, K-4, is a total reading program. It's consistent, it's aligned to the standards, and everyone is now using that. We also are providing professional development for the staff to transition to the new Lexiles and the Common Core standards. As I mentioned, it's almost like a grade level above. The grade 3 teachers, one of them came to me the other day because she has received her materials for the first time this year, and she said the pictures and the words and the vocabulary in them are so rich that she's loving the program. For our intervention blocks, which is part of our RTI program, we are focusing on the skills from REACH that need to be reviewed. So when a teacher is teaching the core lesson and a student doesn't exactly understand what the skill is, they're reteaching that. And what they're trying to do right now is find out how many other students in that grade level may need that particular skill retaught to them. And we're pulling them together. So for some grade levels, they're using a walk-to-read approach. So one teacher may have a group of high students that need to be challenged, and another teacher may have a group of low students, and other teachers may have certain skills that maybe 7 children need. So they're walking to a different classroom, perhaps to receive their instruction. Some teachers are keeping their students with them, especially our 3rd grade teachers, our 4th grade teachers, and what they're doing is doing small group instruction during the intervention block. So they have small groups going, they have centers going, and the teachers rotating from group to group. We also are trying to utilize our instructional leaders as a coach. So they're working with teachers on differentiating the skills in these intervention groups and showing them how that should take place. They're working with them on data. So we just rolled out some data to grade 2 just yesterday. And it was from the grade assessment that was taken. We're looking at DIVOs. And we're looking at students and how many students need to have some intervention with that. So they're working with the teachers to set that up, but then they're also pulling students for groups. We also decided to reassign our remaining intervention staff to work with specific grade levels. So Ms. Kuklinski, we have working with kindergarten, Mrs. Murphy's working with grades 1 and 2, and Mrs. O'Brien is working with grades 3 and 4. So we wanted to really focus their efforts in these grade levels. For math, last year we had a math coach towards the end of the year, Mrs. Schluter. She went through and made sure all the everyday math was aligned with the Common Core. And we have to make sure this instruction is continuing this year without her position there. Without the math coach, the teachers are going to need to rely on their grade level colleagues to make sure they're keeping pace throughout the year. And one of the benefits that I saw from Mrs. Schluter as the math coach was working with a teacher who was off the pace. She was a few units behind because she was so focused on trying to make sure her students mastered the material. And in everyday math, there are certain skills that you only have to introduce. So the math coach was able to work with her, and her math scores last year, this particular teacher, were phenomenal. So we were very proud of that. In science, as I said before, we'll supplement what we need with various programs. Grades 3 through 5 have science kits, so they're using those. And also with grades 3 and 4, they'll have a separate block to address any of the gaps that we need for science and social studies. And in the school improvement plan, so anything that was added, I put in italic print. So our goal to increase student achievement and literacy, we're restructuring the current version of RTI, as I mentioned before, to accommodate the budget limitations that we had with the loss of the 4 part-time interventionists. So we're using the 2 instructional leaders as part-time people. I have Ms. Kuklinski, who's a full-time reading interventionist, and I have a Title I paraprofessional. So they're working during the day with various groups. Number 3, we're focused on reteaching the skills from REACH, not just using DIVLS data. That's where I think we we kind of went awry last year. So we're using the DIBELS data as we're looking at the REACH program and teaching the skills. We're utilizing instructional leaders as a coach to work with the teachers on differentiating groups, and we're assigning RTI staff to those specific grade levels. The next one that we added, without a math coach, teachers will need to rely on their colleagues to stay on pace. And that was all for the ELA that we know we needed to add in. I'm sure you have questions.
Thank you very much for your presentation tonight. I will open it up to questions from the committee. Seriously?
We'll start.
Okay.
Thank you. Just looking, how confident are you in all these areas that show improvement but below target that will get there? And how much of that is really tied to the loss of the 4 interventionists?
As I said earlier, I do have a concern for ELA because although we've made some improvements in math and we go forth with math with a strong program, it is a loss to us, and it's 4 less people to help these skills. So we're working really hard, we're looking at our data, and we're trying as best as we can to work with as many students as we can, but it is an impact on our budget that, unfortunately, that was the only area I could cut from last year. So we don't have the same amount of people to service the number of students that we want.
So we went from how many to where you at? 6 to 2, is that?
I had 4, the 4 part-time interventionists, they were the ones that were cut. So we had 6 part-time people, including the instructional leaders, half of theirs. We had 1 full-time and a Title I paraprofessional.
So there were no other areas that you could have made cuts that wouldn't have such an impact on them?
I could not, because in my 4th grade I have 27 and 28 students, and that was adding a teacher. So I could not cut anywhere else. And I remember when we presented this back in the library of the middle school, I stated, although this was going to come up to the budget number I needed, I was not in favor of it, and it would have an impact.
Okay. Thanks.
Mr. Fonts asked literally verbatim what I was going to ask, so thanks, Kenny. But I think that the take-home message here is improvement, improvement, improvement. I mean, across the board, things are improving, and and I've said this at previous school committee meetings. I just want to see the pendulum swinging the right way, and it
Right.
seems to mine it, and that's really good. For some context, when did Minot become a level 2 school?
When PPI changed. When after AYP we were level 1, and when we changed to PPI we became level 2.
What year?
2 years ago. So this was the 2011 was AYP, 2012 was PPI. So last year's 2012 MCAS was under the progress and performance.
Yeah.
That's when we became level 2 because a lot of things changed. The formula changed.
Yeah.
The testing changed.
Very, very recently. Okay.
Yes.
I
So this
thought
is
it
only
was-
the second year of PPI.
Yeah.
But we did at least remain level 2, and I am very proud of the fact that we have made improvements in just about every category.
Yeah. All right. That's all I have right now. Thank you.
Thank you for coming again, Principal Siemens. I think that the thing that kind of bothers me, and I'm kind of the Mr. Negative when it comes to voting in the budget, because I believe now, and I believe then, and I probably will believe this year, that our budget is inadequate in terms of providing the kind of services that we need to accommodate the uniqueness of our school system. Each school system has their own set of unique problems or values or however you want to look at it, and I think that the budget has got to reflect our philosophy and how we're going to deal with and strategize. So I think that, unfortunately, I share your sentiments in terms of worried about the impact that these interventionists, or not having these interventionists, is going to have on moving forward, having the pendulum continue to swing in the right direction. I think I hear you say that you, obviously you attribute the improvement with the efforts of your staff, all staff. And
the
I think that
students.
they,
I mean, the students worked hard too.
right, and I think that it's a tribute to your staff, and I was going to say, and also your students and the parents, because I think that people are starting to realize how important it is, and how fundamental a good education is. So, not taking away from your staff, parents, and students, I do hear you saying, though, however, that you probably have articulated, to me at least, that a good part of the success had to do with these interventionists.
Absolutely.
Right. So a good part of your success on these MCAS is basically a void for this year.
No, because we're still working hard.
Oh, I know you are, but in terms of the interventionists. Of course, your
They're
staff,
not there.
and your staff is probably
Most
going
of
to work
them aren't
harder.
there. Right.
So that does bother me, but I have to congratulate your staff, the students and parents, because all we can ask for as a committee and a community is moving forward. That's all we can ask for. And I think that you've recognized that there is a void in terms of this personnel.
Right.
And that you've taken some steps to accommodate this void with your action plans on going forward with your school improvement plan. So all we can do is the best we can, and I think that I have to assume that you're doing that and you're strategizing to accommodate the void that you have with this personnel. So thank you. Oh, I had one more question.
Yeah.
A ballpark, not specifically, but how many students would you say, school-wide, not by grade, or what percent of the school, if you will, whatever. Can you give me a notion as to how many students actually require intervention services?
It can vary because
I know it varies, and I know
every
it's a hard
6 weeks
question.
we're switching.
Ballpark, 5%, 10%?
I would say, because the new lexile have changed, so we're seeing more need right now because of just the testing. But I would say probably a good 30%.
30%, and the majority of that is being done in class.
Yes, the teachers are taking on more of the Tier 2 this year and working in small reading groups. Third grade group is doing really good with that. And in the fourth grade, we have those teams that switch back and forth. So, yeah, I would say about 30% would be accurate.
Yeah. If I was principal at mine, I'd be troubled by that, too.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Hi. Quick question. Why is the English language arts, the second slide, I guess it was, I don't see a baseline column. I see it for science and I see it for math, and I even checked Mr. Fonce's to make sure it wasn't my problem. But he doesn't have one either.
For the 2011,
You agree it's missing?
let me look real quick. Oh, you're right, the 2011, so,
So
I
I
have
don't
it
need
right
all
here.
the, I don't need all the numbers, but what was the baseline for ELA for all students?
I grabbed that, hold on. Here it is. So for ELA all students, the baseline was 84.6. That was the 2011 number.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So there's a lot here. And by the way, I was surprised because I had looked at other data related to all the schools, and you've made significant gains on the advanced proficient area as well, but you didn't include that those data. So I think you should take credit for that as well. But just looking at the data that you're presenting, my perception on the CPI, and frankly, I actually think SGP is probably more important than CPI. But as long as we have 3 years of CPI and you're presenting it, it would appear, if I look at the 3 years of CPI for ELA math and science, that you've somewhat plateaued. You plateaued at a pretty good level, but you're somewhat plateaued, and predicting that you're going to go up from here would be hard to predict. You're nodding your head, you agree with that, don't you?
Right. And as I said, the ELA is the one that's the concerning.
Yeah, exactly. And now that I see the baseline, I can see why you're particularly concerned with
Right.
that. Why do you think you've hit this reasonably good, but nevertheless, why do you think you've hit this plateau?
For ELA,
No, I think the plateau is clear for the science and math as well.
we have new programs that we've implemented, and it usually takes about 3 years before we start seeing some great results. We're seeing that with math because we've had everyday math now for about 3 years. Reach is brand new. So last year, K to 2 had Reach. This year, 3 to 4 have Reach. So we'll see that data, but it's a new program. And in science, although grades 3 through 5 at the time had science kits, we're now seeing a lot of science and social studies being taught through the REACH program. And same with the K to 2. A lot was being taught through the REACH program, but those programs are still fairly new.
I agree that this year's number for math is essentially the same as ELA, which, since this committee has been worried about math in the district for a long time, it's nice to see that those corresponding numbers. But 2011, you were actually slightly higher than you are in 2013 on a CPI basis. So you're still optimistic that you're going to go up from here.
2011, we also had the math coach and the reading coach, and they were working with the teachers. We don't have those anymore.
Okay. When you think about the reasons for your success, to Dr. Sylvia, you were talking about parents, students, and teachers working hard. Is it working hard, or is it also working more effectively?
I would say not only more effectively, but also the support programs for students, like the after-school care program, the after-school tutoring program. When we made the switch for the supplemental education services tutoring, so it no longer was just for the free and reduced lunch students, it was for all students, that made an improvement because we were able to increase the number of students we could provide tutoring after school for. So those are reasons why we also see changes for ELA for some of the improvements.
Seat time.
So we're working harder, we're working smarter, and we're using every available resource that we have to help our students.
But you do feel you're working smarter.
Yes, we have to with what we have. We're thinking outside of the box of how can we help these students with the limited resources we have. And I have a great staff that work together, that collaborate together to try to figure out new things for students to help them.
And your prediction, despite the loss of the interventionist, your prediction for this year is at least as good, if not slightly better than last year?
I'm hoping it's going to be at least as good without those interventionists.
We're hoping too, but what do you believe is going to happen?
I believe we'll see improvement because we have the REACH program, but again, it may take a year or two before we see that because of data, and programs have to have some time.
Thank you.
Just a couple things. One, and I've heard this from a couple different administrators, and I think in a couple different years around that it takes 3 to 4 years to really see the fruits of a new program that we've basically brought in. But the thing is that, so we have new students every single year. Is it, why? Why does it take 3 to 4 years when you have new students that are coming in? Is it because that it's a new program and it's getting the program integrated into the school, the teachers up to speed on it? Why does it take so long?
The teachers have to get to know the program, and it's the experience. They go through it the first year. They're doing it faithfully, with fidelity. And then the second year, they can figure out what really went well, what they may need to change. I mean, if you think about how when you first learned to drive a car, I think you would say you're a better driver now because of all the practice and the experience that you've had.
Jeff isn't, but I am.
Have we? We'll send him back to driving school. Sorry, Mr. Sweat.
Sorry, see how I brought that full circle? Okay, yeah.
And the
anybody who
students
can control
also
the
have to
program?
get used to the new way of teaching math, and that's one thing we hear about parents all the time, is math is different than when I was in school. And the Office of Beyond School Time is actually doing one of the parent cafes on math and teaching math. So the students are getting used to the new ways we're teaching math. The teachers, after the first year, they're more comfortable with what is there. And we're also providing the professional development for them to make sure they're comfortable and they're teaching what they need to teach.
And so I just don't, so I mean, I don't know if you asked the question or if it's a conversation that goes on in the administrator meetings, that when we are implementing a new program, what are the additional things that we can do to, because I mean, these programs, some of them have been around for a while, and so hopefully we can learn from some of the learnings of other schools that have implemented them maybe 3 to 4 years before us. But I'd love to be able to somehow, I'm sure you would too, close that gap so then we don't say here it's going to take us 3 or 4 years just before we see results of a new program coming in. Because it makes me think, then, you know, all right, well, stick with what we have, because we're, at least we're all proficient in it.
And I think the key point is we give the professional development before we roll it out, but you must maintain the workshops for the teachers during the year. And that's what we have been doing with REACH. We're still having teachers go to workshops and training them, you know, on the REACH program and the Lexiles and everything else. We're still providing that to them.
Okay. The other question that I had to do with, I know that you lost the 4 part-time interventionists. Have you been, has the school been leaning on programs like CARE, so the before and after school programs to be able to help with the additional tutoring that might be needed and targeting those students that might need a little bit more help getting into those programs and then really focusing it on the MCAS scores?
Yes, and the teachers are always asked when the enrollment is coming out, what students are you concerned about and who do you recommend for those programs? So it's not just scores that would allow students to go into the MCAS, the CARE program or tutoring. Teachers are also recommending students as well.
To go into that program?
Yes.
And then have we looked into anything at Beyond School Time, because that's there being able to provide any additional tutoring? I don't know if we're able to do that through the Beyond School Time program, but they have a lot of program going on right now, being able to use that program as a way to do additional tutoring after school or before school for parents and their students to come in.
We haven't really done it for the students, but I know they're trying to offer workshops for parents. Except for the math is one example.
Okay.
That's a great idea.
But maybe we can look into that. Okay.
Can I ask one?
Yes. Sorry, one more question.
I've got my own little limited key for success at the elementary level, and it's kind of elementary. One of which is more seat time. I believe that overall, especially at the elementary level, we could probably use some more seat time. If you could alter your schedule at your school in terms of increasing time of the school day, have you given any thought of how you might do that?
I have.
Would
I
you
think
care to share it
that's-
at this time? You don't have to.
And I think that's part of increasing some time for teachers as well, so they have the collaboration that they ask for.
Absolutely.
And that's something that probably would have to come up through negotiations, but
Right.
maybe extending the time at the end of the day or 15 minutes before the students arrive so they can have those conversations with their special ed teacher, maybe their inclusion classroom, to see what's happening, but also with each other. And it's vital for them to be planning to have that time and then to discuss data.
So it'd almost be like an infused professional development, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think that that's something that we really should be looking at, getting a little bit more time for staff development, but also I really do think that our kids and the kids come with such diverse backgrounds and ability levels that some additional seat time would be required too. So that's where I'm coming from in terms of my little spiel for increasing academic achievement at the elementary level. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One,
Yes, of course. No, sorry, I didn't make that face. Go ahead.
She did. It's on the camera. I was at a conference today, and one of the things that occurred to me as I'm sitting here is throughout Massachusetts, we have districts that it's not uncommon at all for there to be a level 1 school in a district and a level 3 school in a district. And yet, it's the same leadership at the top, and it's the same, essentially the same parents. The kids obviously change from year to year, but it's the same educational environment, et cetera. What do you think the biggest reason is that you can have level 1, and in one case there was even a level 4 school in a district and a level 1 school? Why such a significant variation within the same district in the performance of a school?
I think there's a lot of things that go into that. It's leadership style, it's working with your staff, it's allowing them to try new things. Whether teachers want to do looping, stay with their same class, they wanted to try teaming. I'm all for empowering the teachers on trying new things and working with them. And we've seen some success with that over the past years.
But fundamentally, you're saying it's the person at the top that is the difference.
I'm driving the train, and I need to pull everybody along with me, and I have to make sure I'm supporting my staff, whatever that might be, and I'm doing it in a respectful, responsible, kind way, as our theme is at Minot Forest, and getting into the classrooms and observing and giving constructive feedback to everybody, being there for the kids, celebrating the successes. There's not like one thing that makes a difference. It's a multitude. It's having the family support. It's having a strong PTA that's working for the kids and giving them field trips for a cultural enrichment. It's everything. It takes a village to raise.
But the bottom line is it's leadership.
I believe so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I was going through separately, we received the class size report, and I was surprised. Consistently, Minot has more, across the board, has more students per class than the Deacon's school, and I don't remember there being that much of a disparity last time we discussed this when we were doing budget discussions. Did anything change? Did you get more students than you expected?
Kindergarten. Absolutely. I have 142 right now, and I think another 2 or 3 registered this week.
But what I'm saying, like, Deacon's consistently has low 20s, low to mid 20s, well, basically low 20s, and you've got mid to high 20s.
Right. My 4th grade is 27, 28 students.
That's crazy.
So in my budget planning, one of the considerations we have to look at, if I have another year of high kindergarten students, we may have to think about redistricting.
Yeah.
Because I have about 100 more students than Deacon's does this year. I don't know what happened this particular year, but
Yeah. And how's that working out now where the 5th grade has moved on? Do you have a lot of breathing room now, or?
we have some breathing room.
Okay.
We're still working with students under the stairwells and so forth.
Yeah, yeah.
At least we got our gym back. That was one of the big pluses,
Yeah.
not only for our use, but for the community use.
And Madam Chair, I don't know if we have enough time, but I have some questions on the school, the newsletter that we received too. I was going to ask while she was here.
I'd like to stick to MCAS if that's okay.
Okay,
Thank
all
you.
right. I
Okay.
love your
You wanna
newsletter,
call me?
by the
Yeah,
way.
I agree with you, but definitely follow up directly.
Yeah.
Okay.
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 Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mike.
Sorry, Mr. Palladino.
Staying here anyway.
Have a good night, John.
Thank you.
Just an observation, so if I may, Madam Chair, in response to Mrs. Sweat. One of the big things that go unnoticed is the fact that different schools have different grades that are tested. And the more grades you test, it affects your overall scores. So in other words, a high school just has one grade they test, you know? And
But
We seem to lose sight of that sometimes.
the elementary school students,
Right, but I'm talking about statewide. I mean, the different sizes, even in a district, there could be different
that's true.
grade configurations.
High school is a particular example.
Right,
you're
right.
Before we get started, I'd just like to recognize some folks that are here, integral to the whole high school and how we conduct business, and a big part of why we're a level 1 school. And so I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Ms. Debbie Freitas, the assistant principal at the high school, Katie Marshall, who is our new math and science department head, Michael Murray, who is our humanities department head, English and history, Cindy Sylvia, who came up with a real creative name, and
It's a great group of people that you have. And in my primo down the end there, Dr. Sylvia always said if something's working, then maybe we copy it. Because at the high school, to be in level 1, and I have to commend the teachers for taking on an extra class, and it's about class size, and maybe it's a blueprint that trickles down to the other schools. I'm not saying they're doing anything drastic, but I think what I've seen here is hard to find any issues with, and I want to commend you and your entire staff and the 5 heartbeats over there for having a level 1 school. Absolutely outstanding.
thank you.
Jeff?
I share my colleagues' feelings. I find the math scores to be extraordinary. I never thought I would see more advanced than proficient, and that's more than needs improvement, and that's more than warning. Talk about a great trend in the numbers. Admittedly, it's only 1 year for the math, and so our new department head has her challenge. But I guess the overwhelming message that I want to send is anybody who's thinking about going to someplace other than Wareham High School should think again. It's the place to be. I hope the school choice from other towns think long and hard about perhaps they want to come here, and no one should be leaving to go somewhere else. I think these are great numbers. When I see the English department ahead of the state, and as you pointed out, when you're good, it's hard to get even better, and I greatly appreciate that. I do have one organizational question for you, and that is, we, and I mean we, all of us, made a decision to add a significant responsibility to the department heads a few years back. Would you care to talk about the difference that has made, if any, in the performance of the school?
Sure. I think you're referring to the evaluation process, I'm sure.
Yes, and the observations, obviously.
Right. So, and obviously they go hand in hand. So that is correct. A few years ago, they started doing observations, and while they were somewhat involved in evaluations, they really weren't in years past. I think that's made a huge difference in the instruction that's going on across the board in grades 9 through 12. And it's good for me as well, because it forces us, and the new system forces us to get into classrooms multiple times. Before, you might have had 17 observations you had to do spread out through the whole year. It doesn't even account for once a week. While everyone gets in the classrooms, now it's forcing you to really get in there, spend the time, observe the classroom. Teachers always have to be on their game, not that they weren't, but they can be observed at any point in time. There's not a situation where we have the pre-conference, they know you're coming in. So there's that whole process where we're in there, instead of being in there once, we're in there 10 times. And the teachers really have, the department heads really have a pulse for what's going on. I think it's made a huge difference for us in instruction. It's really brought the rigor up. We're always looking to improve, don't get me wrong, but it was a huge step for us from an instructional standpoint.
Well, I congratulate you, and I congratulate the rest of your management team. Great job.
Thank you.
That'd be great.
Good evening, Principal
Good evening.
Palladino. And how are you this evening?
Doing well. How are you?
All right, I'm not going to inflate your ego anymore.
Jesus.
Forget that. Just to build on what Jeff said, though, if I could, in terms of the programming that is at the high school, You know, we've got a relatively small high school, and you know, I'm in the high schools, both in the inner city, in the suburbs, and all around, because I got my nose where it doesn't belong most of the time, and it's quite a nose. But the point is that we've got programs at our high school that other high schools anywhere close by can't match. We've got a comprehensive, full-fledged AP program. We've got a marketing program that's the envy of the state. We've got programs in art. We've got programs in engineering and in technology. So the point is that our high school has been able, even through these difficult budget times, to maintain programming that is current, that is appropriate, and that is has rigor. So I think that that's an important thing to point out in terms of you and your management team, that these programs have been able to not only continue, but flourish. Correct. So I think that that's kudos to your staff. Unfortunately, we're doing well. I'd like to see some, obviously, and you mentioned it, I'd like to see some improvement in science. But we're doing very well, and unfortunately, it's hard to stay at the top. And so, you know, puts probably a little additional pressure on you and your staff, because you have done very, very well this year. And a message from the high school to the other schools is, you know, I think I have to really commend the high school, commend the association, Teachers Association, for recognizing a need. And the need was to keep class size down and to increase programming. And by having the teachers teach 6 classes, additional classes, having them teach 20% more than they did before, allowed, so it was a creative step to get more manpower and to use that manpower in an appropriate way. So my point is, you know, maybe we need to replicate that. Maybe we need to find some creative scheduling at the elementary level to provide the opportunity to increase seat time, because we have block scheduling at the high school, to increase seat time, to increase infused professional development, and also to maybe do some specialization, some more specialization at the elementary level. Because, see, those are the things that we're doing at the high school that are different. You know, we have specialization, we have unique programming. So I think that and we have more seat time. So I think it's something that we have to look at as a system and say, okay, you know, maybe we can take some of these strategies that have been implemented at the high school and maybe somehow tweak them and apply them in some creative way to the elementary level. So I just say to keep going, keep moving. You recognize where you need to improve, and just keep the truck moving. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't mind inflating your ego because you deserve.
Thanks for watching my car first. Not that we had any worries.
No, we didn't. I don't mind inflating your ego because you deserve it. Earlier when Mr. Siemens was here, I said, you know, improvement, improvement, improvement. Here I'll say outstanding, outstanding, outstanding. Hats off. Math SGP was incredible. Like I said, to keep that pendulum going the right way. It's tough to, you know, once that pendulum stops, hopefully it does plateau at the top and stays there and gets stuck, right. You know.
Nice.
But getting back to what Dr. Sylvia was saying about, you know, replicating what's working well there, and you mentioned the teachers union. I think that would be great. I hope that something comes out of that. I hope the teachers union, you know, can put their heads together and come up, you know, collaborate and say, listen, you know, it's not apples and apples. I mean, schools are different, but there are some lessons to be learned here. And I wonder, I was thinking about this. I know we had the presentation of the ILTs. Remember that a little while back? I mean, should they be engaged? I mean, they're the liaisons between these schools. I would think if anyone could, you know, say, listen, we should start with that group. I mean, what do you think about that?
start with that group as far as the conversations?
As far as having they're supposed to be the liaisons, if it's probably more of a question.
I mean, it's happening now, so I think maybe it should be on the agenda for a future meeting, but those conversations are happening. I just warn you that, you know, every school is different and every grade level is different. You know, there are some things certainly you could replicate, but I don't think, and my wife will always argue as an elementary teacher, you know, I don't teach in the high school. This isn't because we'll have those philosophical conversations. So I think there are some things to look at, but I don't think it's one size fits all, as I think quite a few school committee members have recognized.
It's the going above and beyond that I want to spread. I want that culture to permeate the rest of our district. Not just I want that to be the lesson. Just, you know, without going much more into that. When is the next NEASC checkpoint?
So we just turned in our 2-year report in October, and the next step will be our 5-year report in a little less than 3 years.
Can we get a copy of that? I didn't see that.
Absolutely. Yeah. We can make sure we get one sent to you.
Because that must be looking really well as well.
Could be looking really even better. It could be looking even better in the spring.
Right, with the new roof? Yeah.
That's the biggest issue.
You got the textbooks, you're level 1.
That's really the biggest issue we have left is the roof. So it's going in the right direction. The spring is going to be obviously a big time for us to get the last piece nailed down.
Absolutely. This year, given the cuts that you had, what was lost at the high school this year, given those cuts?
Well, last year we had a few more department heads. We've got people spread pretty thin this year as department heads. You know, they have more people to supervise, more people to evaluate, and they have their heads are spinning, trying to keep the curriculums aligned, so on and so forth. So that's the biggest piece that we lost was manageable numbers for our management, so to speak. And so they're out straight, and their heads are spinning, and they're working 18-hour days, and I can attest to that based on the emails I get at 10 o'clock at night from all 5 of the folks up there. So that's the biggest piece that we lost. We tried to keep teachers in the classroom, and one of the ways we did that was to cut some department heads. We had cuts, obviously, as well, but we were able to backfill with department heads that then took on a full teaching load. There were some classes that were lost as well. We lost a full history teacher. We lost an adjustment counselor. So there were some cuts, but what we tried to do is, as Joan did as well, as she mentioned, we tried not to impact the classroom as much as possible. You know, we have less core classes that we can run now because we had to put people in the classroom for different sections. So there is an effect, obviously. We tried to mitigate that effect by cutting the department heads. We felt that would keep as many teachers in the classroom as possible. Only time will tell if that was the right decision. At the time, and I still stand by the decision, I felt it was the right decision.
Because as I recall, your school took the toughest hit in terms of real dollars this year.
Correct.
Yeah. And I'll just repeat.
And the year before that, too.
In real dollars?
Real dollars.
I thought we spread them pretty evenly.
It was the middle school, and then the last 2 years it was us.
It was the
middle school 3 years ago.
Everyone except the middle school last year, I thought.
I'm not sure about that, but it was the middle school 3 years ago and the high school the last 2 years.
All right. I'll echo what I remember Dr. Sylvia saying when we got the NEASC report, that we make it work with nothing, and you're doing that, and just keep up the great work.
Thanks, and that's just a tribute to the staff that we have, and obviously the students. We've got great students, and I think that's the most important piece. You know, awesome kids, and I hope we can continue to have them here when they have achievements to celebrate.
And thank you for your presentation. I know you have another one coming up.
Two more.
I know. I think this goes for the administration as well as your department heads, the teachers, and also the students. It feels like this past year that there was this, phenomenal leadership, this laser sharp focus on achievement, like no excuses attitude, and just a students first mentality. It felt that way all throughout the presentations, and that just keeps continuing. And I don't think that there's anything better that a school could do with having those kinds of focuses. And sure. So I commend everyone at your school and the parents also for that, especially in light of the NEAS report, I mean, that was just the presentations that we got. It was just, it felt so heavy. And, you know, we talked a lot about, you know, 5 years, and the achievement that that everyone in that school has made just over the last year is just incredible. So I just, again, want to echo what everyone has said here tonight and just make sure that it's heard loud and clear to, that was an amazing job. So.
Thanks. And if I can reiterate, we do have accreditation for 10 years, and I know sometimes people are unsure because there are steps every school has to make as far as to maintain that accreditation, and we're 67% of the recommendations have been dealt with, and 33% to spread out over 3 years. It's pretty palatable for us, and as I said, the spring town meeting will be huge if we can take care of that roof piece. That's the largest piece that's left on the recommendation list.
Yep. All right, great. Thank you.
Okay, I'll move on.
Thanks.
And we're going to start with the AP test results. And I gave you the last 5 years, and I'll kind of look at, as I did with the MCAS, the previous two. We've got, as Dr. Sylvia mentioned, we have some great programs in the high school, and one of our strongest programs, and we do have some very strong programs, is our art program, and we have a lot of students that go on after high school and go on to go to school and major in some type of an art major. And so this is a portfolio, and I know Mr. Sweat the other day, last meeting, asked Ms. Dion about this, and so I know you had some education in how they are assessed, and it is a portfolio process, digital portfolio at that. And so we went from 3.25 to a 3.5 in studio art 2D design. We haven't had a student in 3D design for a year, and we're back at it, and she received a 2.0. And studio art drawing, we didn't have a student enrolled in that for this past year. Biology, we had to take a one-year hiatus because of some scheduling issues, and we felt that as long as we did it every other year, students would have access to that. And the 2.18 is an improvement from 2 years ago. Certainly we have some work to do in the biology AP. Calculus AP did go up to a 2.18, marginal improvement, but it is improvement. English language comp did go down a bit to 2.19, but there are some improvements that we'll be talking about in a little while with that course. And the English Lit composition went down a little bit, but they're still at a 2.58. Environmental science went from a 2.36 to a 2.0. Still a fairly new class for us. This is our second year of offering it. We did offer it about 6 or 7 years back for 1 year. Macroeconomics, we saw some good gains here, 1.57 to 2.56, and micro 1.86 to that same 2.56. So for us, that was great. Statistics, unfortunately, went down to a 1.11 from a 1.25. U.S. history is maintaining, it was 286 last year to a 282 this past year. And love to talk about our improvement plans. I think you're probably sick of me using the acronym MMSI, but we're very excited about being involved with the MMSI, Massachusetts Math and Science Initiative. I bothered this guy for about 2.5 years, and I'm not sure if he just got sick of hearing from me or he actually wanted us on board. But finally, they accepted our proposal, and our staff this past summer, almost every single one of our AP teachers was involved in a week-long intensive training. And fortunately, it was fairly local as compared to where we had to send them before when we didn't have this grant. And they've also, most of them have been to already a 2-day training in the fall. So the largest piece to this grant is the professional development that occurs. It's provided by world-class instructors, instructors that have helped to create the AP exam with the College Board, that assess the AP exam, and it's great for our teachers. We've had very positive feedback on every one of the staff members that has gone to the training. Part of the grant as well requires that students are involved in a Saturday session, and if you know our kids, and you saw some of them here tonight, our students are very involved in everything you can imagine. Obviously, academics, most of them are very involved in extracurricular activities, and most of them hold down a job, part-time job. So we have 3 Saturday sessions for each class: English, ELA, Math, and Science. And the students are encouraged, not required, but encouraged to attend those Saturday sessions. And some of them, the most recent one was in Barnstable. They had to take a bus down. They left the high school a little after 7 and didn't get back till about 4:30. And half of them will be here at Wareham High School on Saturdays. We had, I believe it was about a 64% rate of students. We had 40-some-odd students that went down that participated in the ELA program at Barnstable High School. And we have one coming up in a couple weeks at Wareham High School. So we're hoping to maintain a rate of about 50% or above for these students to be at each session, and I think we'll be well within that range. Unfortunately, the history department gets left out of the MMSI grant, and we want to make sure that we provide equity in the additional study sessions and also equity in the professional development. So that's something we're going to be working on with Mr. Murray as we get into the second Saturday session. With the PSAT results, we want to really utilize that AP potential a little bit more and identify and recruit sophomores and juniors with this potential to take the AP course. I'm sure we'll be in front of you very shortly talking about class size, and one thing that I get beat up a little bit over is the class size for the AP courses. And part of what we're trying to do is to make sure that if a student should be in that AP class, they're identified first and foremost, excuse me, and we place them in that class so that we can get numbers that are more than double digits. And that's something that we have a 42% increase this year in enrollment in AP courses. Part of that is due to the fact that we are offering a chemistry AP course, which we have never been able to put it together because it costs over $15,000 in infrastructure to support the labs that are required. This grant paid for those. We would never have been able to do that without the grant. That's probably half of my instructional line items for the whole school. So that's where we're at with the improvement plan. Our goals: improve the instruction, improve and extend the learning, improve the instructional supplies. We've also been able to purchase some textbooks with this grant that we would not have been able to, and we also, through the town meeting, when they gave us the additional provisioning for textbooks, we were able to get some math textbooks as well at the AP level. So there's a lot of instructional supplies that are now in place at Wareham High School for these AP courses. We want to increase our average AP score by 10%. We want to increase the number of qualifying scores, which, as you remember, is 3 or better, by 30%. And we want to increase the number of enrollments in AP classes by 30%. And I let the cat out of the bag there. We're already well above that, so we're excited about that. So the last bullet has been attained at this point in time. Certainly would entertain any questions in regards to AP scores, improvement plan, or goals.
Questions regarding AP?
As you know, because you've sat here every year, I've been very critical of your biology AB scores. But one thing I noticed about this, and I'd just like to get a clarification on, even though from 2009, which was pretty bad, 2010 was even worse, but the number of kids taking AP has been slowly reducing. I mean, you've gone basically from 22 in 2009 in biology down to 11 in 2013. So, even though the average score has gone up, the participation rate has been drastically reduced. Is it safe to assume that you're being more selective about the kids going into biology?
During the time of some of this data, that would be accurate, and but we've loosened that up a little bit with the MMSI grant. So I think you'll be much happier when I can show you the numbers for this year. And that's part of the reason why we took 2012 off, the downward trend in enrollment for that course. There was some competition with some of the other courses that were being offered. So that is why we said, okay, we can't continue this trend. 2012, we take a pause. We thought we'd have a few more in 2013, but I can tell you, you'll be very happy with the numbers in 2014.
Good. And if I could, Madam Chair, just like to go back to the MCAS and a couple of things that I forgot to say. One of the things that is absolutely, one of the things that I wanted to mention is, real quickly, is extracurricular. There is a direct correlation, all the studies will show, of extracurricular participation in student achievement. And we need to get more kids out for sports, man. We need to get more kids participating, and I don't know how you're going to do that, make it a graduation requirement, I don't know, but we need to get more kids on our football team, we need to get more kids out for sports. We need more kids on our hockey team, we need more kids on the tennis team, we need more kids participating in sports and extracurricular.
Don't get them going on the tennis courts.
All right.
I agree with you, by the way, and if I can, I really believe that the 8th grade waiver will allow us to see that come to fruition, and it'll be a couple years away, but I do believe in 2 years, when Ed comes up and does that athletic report, you'll be happy when you start dividing the per participant cost.
And then the second thing I want to say, that in terms of your achievement, is one of the things that I notice when I go to the high school, it's orderly. You know, you've got an orderly, safe environment, and I think one of the best decisions you ever made, in my opinion, is going to the dean system. All right, those 4 deans maintain order and discipline and expectations and consequences. And I think that was probably one of the best things that you did in terms of providing an orderly, safe environment in which students to learn. And I wanted to commend you on that.
They do a great job. They deserve all the accolades. They're phenomenal four deans that teach, and then in their spare time deal with all the issues they need to deal with.
Yep. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Yes.
All right. I love that we do AP to the extent we do, and I love that you love that we do AP, and you're very proud of it. But just help me understand, because I don't know much about AP and how it works with the rest of the state. I mean, we don't break things down to subgroups like we do with MCAS and such. These are AP students. These are the best of the best, right?
Correct.
So how is it that we lag so far behind in the state in so many categories? Like, what is it about Wareham, especially with these small class sizes, that makes us lag behind?
Part of what happens is it's time on learning. A lot of schools have, and I don't know if Sandwich did, Dr. Sylvia, but a lot of schools have what they call power blocks or extra times for labs and things like that. It is an issue with AP courses. We're a bit behind because a lot of schools will double up the period. They'll go every day instead of every other day. So we're a little bit behind in the time on learning, which is why I really hope that those Saturday sessions can make up for that, because it gets complicated in a schedule when you block off power block periods. Or it does 2 things. One, it takes away a teaching assignment from a teacher, first of all, and when you're cutting teachers every year, it's difficult to do that. So that's the first piece. The second piece, and probably more importantly, is it affects the student schedule and the courses they can take. Our students, as you know, have a very rigorous course requirements to graduate. We're aligned with the Mass Core, and students now are graduating with 10 more credits than any other class did in previous years, and soon to be 15 more credits. So there's a lot that goes into it as far as how you can make that happen. It's something we're always looking at, we're always researching, we're always thinking about. We feel strongly that the Saturday session will allow for us to have a level playing field with the rest of the state.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
That's it. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Yes.
This doesn't make sense to me. We have CPIs above the state average. These are some of our best kids, and we're a full point on English language composition out of 21 kids, which is a good-sized class, a full point below. With your permission, I'd love to ask Mr. Murray a question. If you'd come down
He
to
needs
the...
to be put on the spot, absolutely. Come on down, if that's...
Okay.
All right, sorry.
You know I think very highly of the work that you do. Is there anything that you can think of that we're not doing that would improve these scores?
I think of when, in the first day of school, August 30th, when the teachers, before the students arrived, one of the current seniors who was standing up here earlier, Hope Wallace.
I know Hope well.
Yes, was invited by the superintendent to say a few words to the staff, and one thing she said was she's concerned about a gap between the MCAS prep and the college readiness prep.
that kicks in, arguably junior, senior year, the AP and the SAT. And you'll see that gap in these scores, and you've seen them in the AP scores. So that's something we're cognizant of right now, is to try to, starting in 9th grade, not just honors classes, to increase the rigor, student responsibility, and we're prepared to hold the line with it, to be strong with students and parents, and to say there's a higher bar to reach in the next 4 years for students. And we hope that by doing so, and by providing adequate supports, including, as Mr. Palladino is about to present, the SAT prep requirement for juniors, and the PSAT being administered to both sophomores and juniors. With those supports and with core supports, we hope to, you'll see a rise in the needs improvements to proficiency, but also in the final 2 years of high school, an increase in those other standardized test scores.
I'd like to also mention, we have a policy that every student that's enrolled in an AP course has to take the test. Most schools have a policy where it's optional. So you have the kids that really want to take the exam that are taking the exam. And I'm not saying that every kid doesn't want to take the exam, but some are more excited than others. And so it's a philosophical decision that we've made. We don't want a kid going in there just to bolster their transcript. We want a kid in there to be serious, to understand there's a culminating exercise that has to occur, and you're responsible for that. And so I would argue, and I'm not making excuses, but I would argue that does affect scores. And that's why you have to be cautious when you look at state averages, because they can be deceiving.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Thank you very
Mike.
much. Thank you.
Ken? Anything? All right, so let's move on to
All right. The last presentation, SAT test results. I'll just compare again the last 2 years. So we're looking at the critical reading scores, and I've given you state average. I think it's important to look at the state public average and obviously national average. And you can see that we have gone from a 459 to a 472. We've been at the 472 before, but I believe, as you'll see at the end, you'll realize we're going to continue to move forward with these scores. Critical writing went from a 452 to a 472, one of the highest scores we've had. And you can see that we're getting closer to the state average, not quite there yet. And the math scores, 466 to 468, modest gain. And although the state average did go down by 1 point, we still have some work to do there. Pretty excited about our improvement plan. I came to you in the spring and asked for your support in requiring that all juniors take a an SAT prep course. Before I get into that, we are going to require, we did this year for the first time. We were looking at, MMSI was pushing for us to test sophomores, and what we're going to do is require all sophomores and juniors to take the PSAT test in October every year. Now that does a couple things. We talked about being able to identify the students that are AP ready, but it also allows for our students to have a second chance at an SAT type test before they go and take the live test in the spring of their junior year. So we're going to be able to see the readiness. We're going to be able to see students having 2 opportunities to take that test, and that will be done in October every year. We just finished doing that. Debbie did a tremendous job keeping things running in an orderly fashion, as we had half the school testing on this PSAT day. And the staff obviously did a phenomenal job proctoring that and making sure we were still able to have education as usual for the other half of the school where these kids were testing. Guidance are going to do presentations using the My Road tool to inform the students of their strengths and weaknesses based on the PSAT score. We're going to utilize an assessment review in the ELA and math. We're allowed to actually keep these test booklets, so we're going to actually utilize that and integrate that into our curriculum for both ELA and math, and instruct the students and provide instructional feedback to the students and the teachers. We're working with Jan in the curriculum office to eventually, as a whole school, do a timed writing activity that can bridge the MCAS PARCC and SAT requirements for writing. And as I mentioned, we're requiring all juniors to take the SAT prep course for 1 semester. And we've offered that as an elective, and a certain group of students obviously jump at that challenge, but not everyone. And we really wanted to push every junior to take that. And we looked at how we had it set up, and we really felt strongly that we needed to have a math teacher to teach one term of the math and an ELA teacher to teach one term of the ELA. And Mr. Murray happens to be one of those teachers, and for the ELA, obviously. And we were able to, the term just ended, so now we have flip-flopped those classes, and those students are now in with their appropriate teacher. Obviously, if they're in ELA, they're now in math and vice versa. And it's worked out well. We're using an online venue, and they're able to get the instructional support they need when they have concerns and questions. And it's really kind of like a hybrid model, if you will, where it's part traditional instruction and part online, and there's a lot of assessments and direct feedback. It's worked out really well so far. It's in our first year, but we anticipate seeing some improved scores because of that requirement. I want to thank you all for allowing us to do that in the spring. We want to improve scores by an average of 5% in all three areas. So this will constitute potentially 20 to 25 points, depending on the score on the test. Certainly would entertain any questions at this point in time in regards to the MCAS.
SAT.
I'm sorry, SAT. Excuse me.
Yes.
Can you just give me a little background on what my role tool is and what it is?
Sure. It's through, I believe, MIFA, and it's a free tool that they can use to take a look at where the students scored and where their strengths and weaknesses would lie, and try and push them into a major in college eventually that would be aligned with their strengths. And it's something that is free to us, and we want to really utilize that. Anything that's free, we really want to utilize.
Thanks.
One of the things that I noticed, and I'm not the numbers guy, Jeff's the numbers guy, but one of the things I noticed, I don't know if you noticed it, Jeff, was that we improved just about across the board, and we improved at a higher rate than the state, which I think is significant. Where statewide, they did show some improvement, except one went down. I forgot which one it was. I forgot.
The math went down
Math
by
went
1 point.
down at the state level. But the point is, we showed significant improvement, and like I said before, that's all we can really ask for. And there, I do know, and you do know, that there are all kinds of things that go into these scores. The number of kids that take the test, I think that we have a very high number of kids that take the SATs. So the higher the number of the kids that participate in the SAT program, that does affect the overall mean average. So I think that those things have to be considered, but, I think that, we're showing improvement. We're not that far behind the state average. And I'll tell you, because I am in all these different high schools, there's a lot of remediation and special SAD programs out there right now. And we have really traditionally never done that. I mean, these kids have been solely going into the SATs based on what they get in the classroom. So there's been a tremendous amount of special programs, remediation programs, special help programs for the SATs that we just never offer to our kids. So there's a lot of factors going into it. So I think that you're showing, that our kids are showing growth. I think that the growth that we're showing is at a higher rate than the state. So I say keep the truck moving. Thank you.
Anyone else? The first bullet around the SAT improvement plans will require all sophomores and juniors. So the juniors took the PSATs this past October?
So traditionally, it had just been the juniors. So this October was the first time we did the sophomores and juniors. And
that's what I was asking. So just this past one, you did both?
Right. And originally, we had some conversations over just staying with sophomores, but if we took the juniors out of the mix, there's some scholarships that they wouldn't be eligible for at the national level. We didn't want to do that, and we thought a second shot at this practice before it counts. Certainly, it's not going to hurt, and from a financial standpoint, it's because we have a high rate of free and reduced lunch. It's not going to cost us much. So I thought that it's going to be money well spent and time well spent.
Right. So I mean, those are my two questions around costs and also around timing. Are the PSATs, are they still done on a Saturday, or are they done during school time?
So you have two options. You can do it on a Saturday. Most schools do it on a Wednesday during the day. It's going to be done in the morning. It's the middle of the month in October.
So the students are taken out of class to,
So every sophomore and junior was taken out of class to have this test administered to them.
okay. And the cost is minimal because of frame-reduced lunch?
Exactly. It's in some schools, they charge money, do it on a Saturday, and the return just isn't there on that investment.
Okay. All right. Yes.
Just a quick point. I know I'm going to sound like a broken record from 2 weeks ago, but I actually think your 20-point goal is probably a bit much. I think if you can continue the pattern and get 10, and you'll be doing great. So I don't know if you're handing that goal out to the rest of your staff, but that's a really tough goal to meet, and if you did half that, I'd be applauding.
I think we'll do better than half.
Okay.
All right, great. Seriously, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate
I know
it.
it was a long night. Thank you all for being here for tonight. We really appreciate it, and again, the work that has been accomplished over the last year or two has just been amazing. So again, thanks for sticking around and being here tonight.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thanks.
All right, so moving on to the next agenda item, acceptance of gifts, please.
Okay, I would ask the committee to please accept the following gifts. We, the people, the patriotic community of Wareham Onset, would like to acknowledge and thank the annual donors of the U.S. flag, proudly to be displayed at the following schools: Wareham Middle School, Dunkin' Donuts of Wareham, Wareham West Academy. Oh, do you want to do one at a time? Or is it all together?
No, probably all together is okay. Is it okay to do them all together? Yep.
Wareham West Academy, Longhorn Steakhouse, Minot Forest School. Is this anonymous, or I guess not now, is it?
It's not, it's in the package. so.
Sweat. Yes, Wareham Academy, Community Mini Storage, East Wareham Early Childhood Center, Music of the Bay, Deacon's School, Wareham Ford, and Wareham Co-op Cool Cone. And a special thanks to the school superintendent and my staff. How about that?
Oh, look at
How about
that.
that? Yeah.
Did you
Okay.
write that?
No, I didn't, and I really should have reread this before I read it, huh?
Motion to accept the gifts as presented by the superintendent.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Oh,
One of those?
Yeah, one of those.
All those in favor?
It's a discussion.
Oh, okay, for discussion.
We get a lot of donations. That's great. I never know what to say whenever we get so many donations from so many businesses and people in the community. I mean, someone gave $12,000 just for the Deacon's Playground. I mean, that was phenomenal. But it's this one that I keep seeing every year that really gives me pause whenever I see these businesses and individuals sort of adopting a school and getting a flag for it. You know, that chokes me up, and I take notice, and I pay extra attention to these businesses when I see this, and I'm just very grateful that they do it. That's all.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. And I think to follow up on Mike's point, let's just read those names again so people understand the businesses that are supporting our schools. Dunkin' Donuts of Wareham, thank you. Longhorn Steakhouse, thank you. Jeff, thank you. Community Mini Storage, Music of the Bay, Wareham Ford, and Cool Cone. Again, these are all businesses in our community that we all should be proud of. On to the next item, class size report, please.
Earlier, we had provided you with backup data. This is just an overview of the various class sizes at the schools. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Questions from the committee? Yes.
I just highlighted the differences, which I think, was it Mike who pointed it out earlier? I mean, I was really surprised to see for fourth grade, 20 at Deacon's and 25 at Minot, and I would hope that in the future we can avoid that sort of thing, because it does seem like a significant burden on Minot to be dealing with those kind of numbers if they don't have to.
Yes, in fact, we were watching these numbers, and all at once they jumped right at the beginning of the year. School had started, and then we creeped up with a few more students. Since students had already been into the classroom, met their teacher, school had started, we did not want to add another teacher there because that would have been reshuffling. What we did, though, is to reassign a paraprofessional. So there is a paraprofessional working with the 4th grade at Minot because of those large class sizes.
Thank you.
Right. Yes.
I think, to build on what Mr. Sweat said, was I think that we really have to be pragmatic on the way we approach the budget, and not only the budget numbers. I think redistricting has to be on the table. We've got to really look at the numbers and how we're distributing our kids across the town. So I think that probably is going to have to be some conversations that we have at some point in time. I don't know if the superintendent agrees, but I just think we have to look at all options, and it just looks like there's a disproportionate number of kids over in that side of town.
And I think I'll piggyback on that you have to take a look at the development that has happened over the last year or two when it comes to some of the high rises that have been built and affordable housing units that have been built, and they're being built on that side of town. And so I think that it's important for us to work with the town and what the plans are going forward for any new developments that are coming into town, and we need to take that into account. Yes, we don't know the number of families that are going to be moving in there, but we need to put that as part of the data point when taking a look at redistricting and what needs to happen.
Impacts transportation, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Right.
it would.
Yep. Okay. Well, I mean, and I think that, we have, the last thing I'll say about it is that we went to look at helping out with Minot and rebuilding a new school because of the age of that school. We are, and it's one of the reasons why we had to make the decisions it was in the best interest of the children, but also move 5th grade to the middle school. So again, people are saying that we're going down when it comes to populations, but all of our schools are bursting when it comes to the number of classes that we have. So, okay, anything else on this? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Superintendent.
Help me out. Career Culture and Wellness. And that's our new department that covers a lot. That covers, so I'll try and cover it all here. It covers our music, our arts, both fine and applied, our foreign language, our phys ed, health, business. Did I get them all? Okay, and technology, excuse me. And Dan Nault, who is our special ed department head. And I also want to mention the far left, there's a lady that you might see at a lot of town meetings and school committee meetings, and that's Miss Mary Peabody, and she is very influential. She's one of our core teachers that you'll hear about, and I want to thank her for being here. She's always very involved in the school, extracurricular activities, and very involved in the town. So Mary, thank you as well, and thank you department heads for being here. If I can kind of go out of order here, if it pleases the committee, I can stay in order and start with the AP, or I can go directly with the agenda and start with our MCAS.
Let's go to MCAS first.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. So we're going to go through the data that we have here, and you heard a great presentation from Joan in regards to CPI and SGP, and we'll get to that momentarily.
XYZ.
Really excited about where we are with our ELA performance levels. You can see the growth that we've had, specifically in the advanced, going from 30 to 37% over the last 2 years. And obviously the proficient went down because some of those kids did move up to the advanced. We're at 11 needs improvement, and warning is 2. Unfortunately, it does count against us for the alt portfolio assessments, and that's where you would have those 2. So we're very excited about where we're at with the advanced and proficient, and Mr. Murray and his staff are doing an excellent job moving forward, trying to move those needs improvement up to proficient, proficients to advanced, and we feel we're heading in the right direction there. In regards to the math performance levels, you could see a huge gain in advanced. We went from 25 to 40, which we felt we'd be there in about 2 years with the math scores. So we're really excited about moving up to 40. And then staying consistent with the proficient was huge, to stay at that 30. So 70% advanced and proficient. We're very excited about that. We do have 24 needs improvement, which we are working on. A lot of those students will be identified or have been identified for our core classes, which is kind of the response to intervention model that you've heard many times through many presentations. Warning, unfortunately, we are at 7. There was a person that transferred in from another school, took the test at the other school, and that is one of the 7, and a couple of those are the portfolio alts as well. But we do have a handful that we have some ownership in, and certainly we're looking to work with those folks as they do need to take the retake in order to take the retake and pass in order to graduate. Our science, we have 6 advanced and 48 proficient, so when you look at that grouping of advanced and proficient, we're pretty excited to be at 54. Needs improvement, we've got some work to do there. We have 41%, and we do have 5 that are at the warning stage. So those are our performance levels historic over the last 5 years. Our ELA CPI is at a 97.8 above the state level, and we're very excited about that, and we've actually met the goals for a few years out. We're already there in regard to the CPI. And math CPI, we're at 89.8. We're hovering that state level, and I would anticipate we'll surpass that state level this year. The SGP in math, we're at a 44 as compared to the state at a 51. But you can see we went from 28 to 44, so just huge growth in the last year in math. And certainly ELA above the state level at 60.5, and we saw some good growth there as well. It's tough when you're up that high to have that large amount of growth, but ELA continues to do a great job with that. I added my, you may remember being here in June in regards to one of our areas, our school improvement plan, and it was utilizing and recreating the core math and core ELA models. And I believe that is the largest reason why we saw the improvements and why we're at level 1 at this point in time. Certainly it comes down to the students working hard, the teachers working hard, but the remediation that needed to occur was there. You may remember 3 years ago we came before you in regards to changing our schedule. We asked all of our teachers to take on 1 extra class, okay? And that what that was able to do was able to drop our average class size by approximately 6 students by doing that. So where I might be in front of you now saying our average class size for most of our core classes are 25, 26, I'm able to say, hey, those are close to 20 or sometimes hovering 20. And you know, that's a big difference, those teachers picking up and doing what was right for our students. And that's another reason why we're here. And in them being willing to do that, we were able to bring these core classes back because, let's be frank, there wasn't any money in the budget to create a core class. We had to be creative. Teachers stepped up. We took away their duties. We found creative solutions to their duties, and we created these core classes. The teachers teach a lot more. Their caseload is no different. They're still hovering in the somewhere between 100 and usually 125 students, but they're spread out. It's more manageable. You saw a report, there's less discipline issues this year than last year, and I think that's a theme that you'll see continuing. So our goal is to increase the MCAS scores by 5% compared to the previous tests. We've done that. We talked about the initiatives. All of them are on target, and we're going to start spending a little more time dissecting the data. We now have, as of next week, we'll have 4 of us will be trained as data coaches. And we've spent some time dissecting the data, but there's a lot more we can do. Find tendencies. How are our kids struggling in certain areas year in and year out? I think what we do is we kind of touch upon the data, but I don't think we dig deep. I don't think we chisel down and get down and really find the tendencies that we could find. So we're excited about that. We're looking to continue with the Common Core Academy. It's a grant-funded program. Where we have students that are identified as low-performing students in MCAS for grades 9 and 10, and they do that after school. We're going to continue doing that. That has helped as well. But so it's not just one thing and that's really contributed to our success. It's great department heads, great leadership, my assistant principal. I'm just lucky enough to be up here presenting. And great teachers, great students. You saw some of them here tonight. So we're excited. Good things are happening, and we anticipate staying at level 1. So some improvement plans for us. Continue to place the pre-identified students in core. You heard me speak a few times. These kids don't come in all of a sudden in the ninth grade, and we don't know who's on the path for a low score and who's on the path for a high score. They come to us pre-identified based on their MCAS scores at 8th grade, specifically for math and ELA. We're going to continue to place those kids in the core classes as needed for remediation to bring those students up. And what's going to be great is if we get to a point where we can get some of these kids to be in the above the warning status, we can start going into the students that are in the needs improvement level and start bringing those kids up to proficient. So this can have a trickle up effect, so to speak. We're going to continue to dissect the MCAS data, as I mentioned, and the data team will continue to utilize, and that's just going to get bigger and better as the other two folks get certified in that. Our goal, again, is going to stay the same. We want to increase, well, in this case, advanced and proficient by 5%, but we want to see that increase, and we want to see that in all three content areas. That's where we're at. We feel we have a lot of room to grow in the science MCAS, and we're excited about the staff that we've been able to get into high school at this point in time. We had a lot of retirees this past year, and they did a great job, obviously, for us, but we have a lot of new staff, young staff, 2 new department heads, and I'm really excited about all of the staffing that we have at the high school. I think we're really heading in the right direction. We've been very fortunate to find some great teachers and some great leaders here today. That's MCAS.
Great.
Certainly entertain any questions you may have.
Great. Questions, comments? Ken, do you want to start?
Yeah, I don't like this because every time I run into Mr. Palladino, I have to find something to criticize him about. And I can't find anything wrong with this presentation. One of the best movies I've seen was The 5 Heartbeats, and I think you have the 5 heartbeats over there.
Report.
Thank you.
Under my report, I am on the verge of forming a superintendent's advisory committee. This is proposed. I would ask for your approval of moving forward, as this will have folks elected to the committee, and it will come from Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, School Committee, principals, public school staff, Wareham community, and parents and citizens. So what I will be doing is sharing this, asking for people to please submit applications or letters of interest, I should say letters of interest, and then we will form the committee.
Do you have a basic composition in mind?
Yes, we'd have one board, one member. Can I just share this with you?
Yeah, sure.
There you go.
Is this public yet?
It is going to be public as
Okay.
soon as we finish tonight.
So just for the record, you want to read them?
I do. There'll be one member of the Board of Selectmen, one member of the Finance Committee, 2 members of the School Committee, 1 principal, 2 public school staff, 1 Wareham business representative, 1 Wareham nonprofit, and 4 parents or citizens.
Very good.
This committee will really be an advisory to the superintendent. We'll meet approximately 1 time a month, and we'll really look at our district, how we can move ahead, what we need to focus on, and how do we engage our community. So we'll be working together collaboratively, and I think this will be a wonderful venture.
Thank you. So when it comes to the 2 members of the school committee, it says selected by a vote of the school committee. So what I would ask is that anyone interested in serving on this committee to express your interest to the superintendent. At another meeting, what we'll do is then we'll vote on those school committee members. Okay? So just if you're interested, please contact the superintendent.
In my final item, the parade is on Monday. They would love to have our participation. We could help serve. We could help direct traffic. So if you're interested, please let me know, and I will share that information. Great. And yes, they're planning on you for parking, and I believe you need to be there like at 8:30.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I spoke with Bob White earlier today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a second job? This is second parking.
No.
Like activity that you'll be doing.
Maybe a vest and flashlight.
I do events all the time. You let me know if you have a side business going on.
It's a backup.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Great. Under school committee reports, there are two committees that the town is asking for a representative from the school committee to be on. First one is the Town Master Plan Committee. I'm sorry I don't have more information on it. If anybody in the committee does, I mean, it is the master plan for the town, and but I'm not sure about meeting times and when they've started or when they're going to start. But I would like to know if there's a member of the school committee that would like to be on the master plan committee. Shaping our town, people.
I'll do it if you can't find somebody.
Okay,
You would be excellent on that committee.
great.
For as long as I'm on the committee.
So we, do we need to take a vote on this?
I don't think so.
You can appoint as chair.
Yeah, you
Right,
can appoint.
okay, I'm appointing you.
Okay.
All right, so, so we have Cliff
If I
Sylvia
can
to
do it.
serve on the Town Master Plan
It
Committee.
depends on when they meet, though.
Right, all right, so just let me know,
Right.
but I'm going to submit your name. And the second one is a representative for the Town Audit Committee.
There you go, Jeff.
I'm not volunteering, I'm just asking to say a couple of words about that.
Yes,
At your direction, and because Mike was unavailable, I participated in the Town Audit Committee Monday evening.
they, just so you know, they asked, and it was before our meeting, so they asked for a representative 2 days before the meeting and before ours,
So we didn't have time to go through this process, is the bottom line. It was myself, Bill Haney as a citizen representative, Alan Slavin, the town administrator is an ex officio voting member, which was a new concept to me. And we met with two members of the audit firm, and I'm blanking on their name. It's Powers and Sullivan, sorry. And they expect to have their audit completed sometime over the next couple of months, say. And then they would schedule yet another meeting. There probably is no more than about 3 meetings a year of this committee. It's a new committee, and they felt it was important to have school committee representation given the fact that we represented a significant chunk of the budget. So we met, we asked a lot of questions, and we agreed to meet again when they were finished the draft of their audit. So that's my report on the audit committee, and I'll be glad to give way to somebody else if they'd like to participate.
does anyone have a strong desire to take over the spot? Come on, Cliff?
You could.
All right.
If Jeff wants to do it or Mike wants to do it, they're both very good with numbers, and I think that they would represent the school committee admirably.
Yes.
So move.
No, thank you.
Okay, good, thank you.
No, just-
Okay,
yeah.
And we want to see significant improvement in his numbers.
yes.
When he's on.
Okay. So, Jeff, you're okay with it? I'll submit your name.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, great. Thank you very much to the committee members for volunteering. I appreciate it. Any other business?
One quick question of our superintendent. When should those of us helping out with the Veterans Day Parade show up, and where? Town Hall at what,
Town Hall,
at what time?
11:15.
Okay. Except if you're parking, in which case it's 8
Yes.
o'clock.
Any other business?
I move we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.